Alright, so I'm back with another 3 lessons I've learned from 3 mistakes that I've made. If this concept is unfamiliar to you on my channel, I'll briefly run through it right now. I talk about 3 mistakes that I've personally made in my life and the lessons I've learned from them. Through that, hopefully you can do one of two things: either relate to it or use my advice and the lessons that I've learned from this mistake in order to make your life a little better. It's one thing learning from your own mistakes, but it's another being able to learn from other people's and being able to avoid making the same mistake through learning and, vicariously seeing how other people have managed dealing with their own mistakes. So, without further ado, because I value your time, I'll get straight into the first lesson. Firstly, you have to not be afraid to say no. Now, sometimes saying no can take 1,000 times more courage than saying yes. Trust me, I know. There's been a lot of situations in my life when I've said no to, public events. I've said no to going out with friends. I've said no to things which I would have liked to do in order to work on myself, in order to work on a goal. Be it I didn't have enough time for the gym that day, so I've had to say no to going out, and instead I focus on going to the gym, building my physique. Or I've had no time for building my business, working on my YouTube, so I say no to other things. And it's human to feel guilty when doing this. It's human to feel guilty when you say no, because you feel like you're letting other people down. But you've got to start thinking long term whenever you start coming up with excuses like that, because you saying no in that situation takes about 5 seconds, and it's a small decision like that which can lead to you feeling 1,000 times better because you did it. Imagine you said yes to going out with friends and stuff, and albeit you might have a good time, don't get me wrong, but you're neglecting something else which you knew you should have done. Now, that's a choice you're going to have to make on your own. Whether you want to prioritize instant gratification in the moment or long-term gratification, that's up to you. But you have to have the courage and the awareness to know when you should prioritize one or another. And saying no and having less guilt when you do choose to say no is essential. It's a trait of very successful people who make sacrifices, who make these choices, always lead to being successful in the future, and those who have less guilt when doing it also become more successful. It's a skill you definitely need to have, and it's hard. It's funny because so many people are just driven by instant gratification, one after another, and saying no to a night out or something like that seems completely alien to them. Like the thought of cancelling all that potential fun just to spend 2.5 hours or an hour and a half in the gym is crazy to them. So if you feel weird when doing that, if you feel like you're the odd one out, just know if you do start feeling that, you're in the right place. I know you've probably seen this everywhere on like motivational media or like self-improvement, but the weirder you seem, you're in the right place. The guy who's spending time working on his business alone while everyone's out partying, he's going to be successful in the future, but you're going to be seen as the outcast. And if you can deal with that, and if you can feel less guilt when saying no, then you're almost guaranteed success as long as you continue to keep that same mentality. Secondly, not every thought requires action. Now, this is true in loads of situations. The first thing that came to mind for me was nofap. Whenever you get that urge, whenever you feel a moment of weakness, whenever you're getting drawn towards that, it's easy to act upon it. It's easy to think like, it's only one day, it's only this moment, I'll get back on track afterwards, I'm not going to feel guilty after I do it, I'm not going to feel any shame, I'll be fine. It's easy to think like that. It's another thing acting upon it. Sometimes you can feel guilty when you start thinking like that, which you shouldn't really. because that's human nature. We've got sides to us which we don't want to admit to other people. We've got sides which are animalistic, sides which could really hurt a lot of people if acted upon. But it's also human to repress them. It's also human to withstand them, to live with them. And it's unfortunately hard to do that, but it's required if you want to be able to be successful in the future. Not every thought needs to be acted upon. It can just stay as a thought. It doesn't need to be put into reality. And this is what I feel like a lot of people suffer with. It's the need to act constantly. Now, don't get me wrong, when it comes to working on your goals, your dreams, stuff like that, that obviously requires action. You're going to need to work long hours throughout the day. You're going to need to work when you don't want to work. That stuff requires action. Most things do, if you want to get the physical nature of it. But whenever you think weakly, whenever you're in that moment of weakness and you're thinking about indulging in these past habits, they don't require action. They can stay as a thought. And I feel like when you choose to make these things stay as a thought, the next time you have it, it's much easier to withstand it and, use some willpower to stop it from being acted upon, because you've done it prior. So it should just be a lifestyle. Some thoughts you just notice, ignore, and let pass. That's fine. You don't need to feel guilty for having them. You're probably never going to overcome them. But if you can overrule these thoughts with doing something productive, then that's where your strength really comes through. That's who you should pride yourself as. You're not that guy who sits on the hub for countless hours each day. You don't need to be that person. You can just be the person who notices thoughts, lets them pass, and just continues to strive forward, be productive. A really good practice you should do, if you're not already doing, is meditation. This is one of the best ways to get into that cycle of just noticing, letting pass, or acting upon if it serves you. Meditation is pretty much exactly what that is. It's noticing your thoughts, letting them pass, and not letting it burden you. It's hard to do. It seems completely out of the ordinary for some people, but I myself, I've been meditating for over, I want to say around 3 years now, and wholeheartedly, it is one of the best practices that I've started doing, alongside working out, alongside, this channel. It's a part of me, and I can't see myself ever stopping doing it. And the biggest benefit for me, obviously, has been the ability to just not act upon my thoughts, stay focused in conversation, stay focused when I'm doing work. And yeah, it's been a good tool in building my willpower and my ability to just let thoughts pass, not act upon everything continuously. So yeah, not every thought needs to be acted upon. The third and final lesson is to not expect to succeed if you haven't done any preparing for the event itself. Now, I think in a previous video, I've talked about this story. A couple of years ago, I was trying to find a job, and my mom sent me this lifeguard training, and I was interested in it. I've always lived an active lifestyle. Obviously, I go gym, I train, and this seemed like a good fit for me. So I was pretty cocky. I thought, hey, I've been going gym. At this point, I think I've been going for just over a year. So I'd made a lot of progress, and I was proud of myself. And I didn't do much cardio. I didn't really think I needed to. I'd swam in the past, and I thought it was going to be a breeze. So I didn't train beforehand. I didn't try and see if my swimming was still up to the standard it was. I didn't try and improve my cardio. I didn't do any prior revision or anything like that beforehand, because I thought, hey, I'll probably do this. I've been training for a year. This is going to be easy for me. It's not going to be a challenge. That was my mentality. So I went there, first day, and there was a couple other people. You know, it was me, a couple other boys, some girls, and first it was like a bunch of theory. They were just telling us the ropes of everything, and then after all that was finished, we decided we were gonna get into the pool and do some drills. You know, some saving methods when you jump into the water, and bring the people back towards you to safety. And I was watching everyone else do it. It didn't look too hard. It just seemed like pretty basic stuff. Everyone was finding it very easy. And the instructor, he said that we have never had anybody fail this exam before. We've been doing it for 5+ years, and throughout that entire time, nobody has ever failed this exam. And that just gave me all the more confidence I needed. I was already confident beforehand, but now I knew, okay, yeah, this is going to be light work, no reaction. It's going to be the easiest thing I've done in my life. So I'm not worried in the slightest. So after watching everyone else jump in, do their saving, practice that technique, it was my turn. And I jumped in. I took 5 times longer than everyone else. You had to do the saving, the swimming back and forth while carrying someone in under 2 minutes in order to pass for the day. I took 5 minutes, maybe even 6. It was barely in a 100-meter swim, and I was out of breath halfway through. They had to stop me halfway through, tell me to quickly get out of the pool, pulled me aside and said, I don't think this is for you. So through this, hopefully you can learn that preparation is needed for success. I think it was Tom Platz that said this, but success is when preparation meets opportunity. Now, that couldn't be more true. I had the opportunity to be a lifeguard, but I didn't do any preparation. I was cocky, I was overconfident, and that led to my downfall. And thankfully, I was able to use this as fuel to work harder. I started doing cardio. I started training even harder than I ever had before, and I was making the most progress I had at the time. Everything was just clicking. I started getting leaner. I started seeing much more progress, and it was through that massive failure which made me realize this, that success is when preparation meets opportunity. You have to prepare in order to be successful. You can't just expect it to fall onto your plate, because as much as we'd like that to happen, it doesn't. Overnight success isn't a thing. So you've got to work tirelessly, relentlessly in preparation for success to come to you. So hopefully you can take this, use it in your life, learn from my mistakes, and don't make the initial mistake. It's important that you're able to not only learn for your own mistakes, but from other people's as well. It takes another standard of strength to be able to do that. So if you're capable to do that, you're going to be ahead of a lot of people. So yeah, that's everything from me. Hopefully you can take some of this, apply it in your own life. And yeah, thank you for watching. Don't be a vape puffing nerd.